This right here is a tattoo design that I lined using 3 different tattooing needles. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my lining secrets. Not only that, I'm going to leave a link down below so you can download the stencil and follow along on your end. Stick around until the end of the video to find out my lining secrets. Hello, my name is Daniel Yuck. Thank you for watching my video today. I appreciate your time. In today's video, we are going to learn how to tattoo lines. Should you have any questions, drop them down below and I'll do my best to assist you in the best possible direction. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring my bell as I'm going to be bringing more videos like this for you all. With that being said, let's dive straight on into this. What makes a good tattoo line? A good tattoo line is made up of consistency, steadiness, saturation, and attention to detail. I want to list off some main reasons why we may not be accomplishing clean lines. Some main reasons why we may not be getting clean lines can be ranging from not being familiar with needle depth and not understanding needle depth. The stroke of our tattoo machine could be hitting too soft, and or our hand speed and voltage could be off. Keep in mind there's other reasons, but these tend to be the top. Next, I want to talk about what a good voltage is for lining. It's important to note that there is no set in stone voltage that we have to use to line. Let's say, for example, if we're using a coil setup, coils tend to hit a lot harder than, let's say, pen style tattoo machines. So therefore, if we're running a coil setup, we may run at a lower voltage range. Let's say another example, if we're using a pen style tattoo machine, then we may tend to run in a higher voltage range. So let's use pen style tattoo machines for the example. If we're using a pen style tattoo machine, a healthy voltage range that I've experienced is anywhere from 6 volts to 8 volts. And again, it is going to be greatly dependent on the machine that we are using. But that is a general rule of thumb. That is a good place to start, from 6 to 8 volts for lining. Another thing that helps me determine the voltage range that I'm going to be using is the machine that I'm using. So for example, here is an Easy Tattoo P3 Pro tattoo machine, and it is a multi-stroke tattoo machine that goes from a 4.2 stroke all the way down to a 2.0. So let's say if I'm going to be lining at a 4.2, I may be running at around 6.5 to 7 volts. Let's say if I'm going to be lining with a 3.3 stroke, I may be lining at around 8 volts, just because a 3.3 stroke would naturally hit a little bit softer than a 4.2. Before we get into the actual tattoo lining demonstrations, I want to talk about some tattoo lining secrets. A secret that has helped me create better lines is to line with my shoulder and my elbow, not my wrist. So what that means is, let's say if I'm going to be pulling a line towards me this way, I'm going to tend to move in this sort of direction, or same thing. I'm going to move in this sort of movement and motion as opposed to this sort of motion. So I find more consistency when I'm stabilizing my arm. I keep it stiff and I'm using my shoulder and my elbow movements to create the lines as opposed to my wrist. Another secret that has helped me tattoo better lines is to identify my A and B before I begin to commit to the line. So what that means is I'm kind of planning out each and every step as I go. So if there is a line, I'm going to identify where I'm going to begin, which is the A point, then I'm going to identify where I'm going to end, which is the B. Then I'll go ahead and stabilize my arm and then pull it from A to B in that manner. And I repeat this process throughout the entire tattoo, no matter how big the line is, all the way through. So that's another secret, identifying my point A and B before I commit to the line. This next secret is one of the tickets to saturated lines, which is matching your hand speed and voltage. We want to get comfortable with the gear that we're using. We want to find a comfortable hand speed and voltage that we're going to be using for the setup that we have. It's imperative that we find that hand speed and voltage and tune it. That is going to be one of the determining factors as to how saturated our lines come out every time we tattoo. So once again, figure out a healthy hand speed and voltage for you that you're comfortable with. Another secret to create clean tattoo lines is to be comfortable and position yourself in a comfortable manner before you commit to the line. So if you're in an uncomfortable position, I don't recommend or encourage to tattoo in manners that you are uncomfortable. Granted, there may be smaller spots where we do have to be in an awkward position. However, I do feel if we put in a little bit of effort and time, there's always a better way to position ourselves to better apply the tattoo that's already giving us issues to apply. So I would recommend to take time, find your postures, positionings, and prioritize your comfortability over anything throughout the entire process. My last secret here that I want to give you to create better tattoo lines is to use a round shader tattooing needle versus a round liner. Now, there's no set in stone rule that round shaders have to be used to shade. We can in fact use round shaders to line should we choose to do so. The reason why I would recommend to use a round shader, especially if you're just starting out, is because they tend to be a lot more bolder than round liners, which means our mistakes are not as easily apparent. They're not as readable with round shaders as they would be with a round liner. When it comes to a round liner, anything below a 7 round liner is going to be real prominent. Our mistakes are going to be real defined, and they're going to stand out like a sore thumb when it comes to round liners. Round shaders, again, are a bit more forgiving, so I would recommend to start with a round shader tattooing needle. This right here is a Rattlesnake 7 round shader tattooing needle. Links will be for you in the description below. Right here I have a piece of fake skin that I'm going to be using to demonstrate. What I want to do is I kind of want to use this angle right here to demonstrate my movements, and then I'll bring you over to some close-up looks at the lines themselves. So I figured that'd be a good way to approach this. So I'm always going to find my positioning and prioritize my comfort and positioning. I'm always going to want to make sure I have my hand speed and voltage aligned, and I want to make sure that I'm hitting that correct needle depth. So I'm going to position myself, make sure I'm comfortable, make sure that I can move in that direction comfortably. I'm going to commit to the line. I'm going to hit the dermis, and then I'm going to align my hand speed and voltage all the way through. This process is pretty much repetitive throughout the entire tattoo. I'm going to repeat this over and over on each and every line. So the application doesn't really change. What's changing is the tattoo itself. The wrist, I am in fact using my shoulder and elbow. I'm also planting myself on my area that I'm... Another important thing to notice is what I'm doing with my tattooing hand. I am not using my wrist. I am in fact using my shoulder and elbow. I'm also planting myself on my area that I'm tattooing on. When I plant myself, I can provide myself with that much more stability to provide even more quality to my tattoos, and I think that's the idea. When we're tattooing, we always want to be improving, figuring out ways that we can apply the tattoos better. So I plant myself before I proceed, and when I plant myself, I make sure there is enough movement within my plant to get from point A to B. Position myself comfortably. I'm planted. And I'm ready to commit. The only thing that's going to change is the design itself, which line we're actually applying. So if this were a real client, I would position the client in a manner that's more comfortable for me, and then I'm going to work around that. Same thing, I've identified my point A to B. I'm going to position myself, make sure all of my position and posture is correct. Taper in on my A, which is the starting point. I'm planted for that stability, and I'm not moving my wrist. My wrist is locked. Keep my wrist stiff. So identifying my point A to B, which is A and then B out here, tapering out. I'm going to position myself and get comfortable. I'm running at 6.5 volts because that's where I'm comfortable with this specific setup. My stroke is at 4.2. I'm going to taper in right here. Keep my wrist stiff. And pull from A to B as cleanly as I can. And I'm going to commit to the line as best as I can here. I am using a smaller configuration, so therefore I drop my voltage. I'm going to start from point A right here, identifying my A, and then B is over here. And then I'm just going to complete the line as best I can here, keeping my wrist locked, using my shoulder to my elbow as best I can. So even with the different needle size, the same technical approach still applies. Optimal saturation, making sure that my angle is correct so the line weight stays nice. Same thing that we've been doing. I'm going to identify my point A to B, I'm gonna plant myself, identify my A, commit to the line, making sure that my hand speed and voltage is matched so that way I achieve optimal saturation, making sure that my angle is correct so that the line weight stays nice and even, and I'm paying attention to details so all of the details show up when I apply the tattoo. Here are the results. This is what we are working with. You can see that these lines are nice, clean, solid, consistent, and saturated. This is exactly what I would want from my lining. There you have it. That is how I go about approaching lining. These are some easy steps that I hope you can implement immediately so that way you can see some immediate change when it comes to lining on your end. If you have any questions, I encourage you to drop a comment down below and I will do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell for me as I'm going to be bringing more videos like this for you all. I thank you for your time. I appreciate you watching. You have a great day.